glad on this episode to be talking with the collaborative creative duo of Jamie Jackson and WAZ. Welcome to you both. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to have you. Absolutely. I understand that we'll be talking about perhaps a Vince Vaughn adjacent project that was Bad Monkey. Is that right?
That's right.
And currently working on Motorheads, which is a recent series with Ryan Phillippe. So curious to talk about the creative process, the ways that you engage together and create some of the storytelling through music. I'm curious about what got you into this field and your initial interest in music.
Mm,
Go ahead.
Okay. Um, well, I grew up studying classical music and classical piano and voice, and I also uh, sang in the gospel church choir. And I studied music for a while, and then decided that I was going to get into the process of recording. So I worked at recording studios, but I really didn't, I was composing in high school, but nobody really said to me, hey, you can write music for television and film. So I went down a lot of paths to finally find where I was supposed to be. I call myself a late bloomer. I grew up in Mississippi, and I went to study music for a bit in Nashville, and then I moved to New York. And after grad school, I moved to Manhattan, and I started working at Jimi Hendrix, original studio electric lady. And then from there, I moved to Los Angeles and I met Waz. I picked him up at a bar and we started dating. And I swore I would never move to LA, and I swore I would never marry a musician. And I did both. And so yeah, it was just I kind of just went where the doors opened, until I finally found where I belonged.
Yeah.
What about you?
Very different, very different. I didn't study music growing up. I just loved rock and roll. I started playing guitar when I was 8 and all forms of guitar. And I was in a band with a guy named Pete Yorn for a number of years after college, and then I broke off to release some of my own music. And a couple of the songs that I'd done had landed on TV shows and films, and those one of those happened to be a show that Bill Lawrence, show creator, was doing, and got a call. And Jamie and I, when we first met, we weren't doing film and TV. She wasn't doing music at all, in fact, and we were hanging out for quite a while, like I don't know, a couple months before we I even knew that she was such an amazing musician and singer. And um, we were just record. She had played piano on some of my pieces, some of my songs, and we were actually playing a show down in South by Southwest, and we got a call. Do you guys want to try out to get this gig as composers for this show on ABC that we're about to start filming? And just do what your songs sound like, just as score though. So
Mhm.
I thought, well, we can do that. And we just come out of that recording. So it was easy to kind of jump into that. And we ended up, I think we were up against like 7 or 8 other composers. And we landed the gig. And that was about 13 years ago,
Mhm.
maybe more, I guess. And then that sort of led to where we are today.
Nice, nice. What's the collaborative process like between the two of you?
Well, we have a great couples therapist that keeps us straight. So we have lots of tools, but we're very different, as he was saying, we have very different backgrounds. We have very different tastes in music. We have separate studios, and a lot of times when we get a project, we'll disappear and work on our own, and then we'll you know, write write some score and pieces independently of one another, and then we come together and we compare. And sometimes, we present two different perspectives to showrunners. And then as the project develops, we pay attention to what the project needs and who should be the leader of the project and the point person. So once we figure out, well, Waz really connected with the showrunner. He really loved his piece as like a concept and they seem to have a vibe. So Waz, you'll be the leader of this project and we'll support your vision, And so we just had to work hard. We've been working together for quite some time. We're also parents, we're friends, we're husband and wife. So, it's challenging but very rewarding. And it takes a lot of work and effort to have a healthy working relationship.
Yeah.
Any particular influences that each of you would point to?
For individual projects or just in broad, like in general?
More broadly and in general.
Hmm.
I'm really inspired by Nina Simone, Patti Smith, Laurie Anderson. Um, like currently, I'm really into Doechii.
Mhm.
Um, I love the Meridian Brothers. They're a cumbia band from Colombia. Um, I'm also really into visual artists and writers. I like to get inspiration from other outlets. We both are really inspired by Murakami, the writer. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
we went to Japan in December and have not stopped reading his books like again and again. As I picked up some of his material before we left, I was like, oh, it would be so fun to read, Norwegian Wood while we're in Tokyo, and then couldn't put it down. And then an artist that I'm really inspired by, even with the way she uses music in her multimedia work, is Pipalati Wrist.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned you might want to talk about this, but I mean, a big influence from when I was much younger was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't, I mean, have I listened to any of the tracks in the last like month aside from for work, listening to the soundtrack for Bad Monkey? Probably not, but it lives in me, and that is something that I'll never shed, and it lives in my sentiment when I write. And but I just recently, you know what? We watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off last night with our daughter. We wanted
Mm-hmm.
to share some quality, quality film with.
Skip
We'll
school,
make
steal a car.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
all the things that a 10-year-old should learn. But man, Dream Academy
Oof,
did a number
so
of
good.
they have there was score in there as well, but the Dream Academy um, had a couple songs, and in fact, in the museum moment is a cover of a Smith song, but it's an instrumental. And I remember watching it, and I was like, I think that's the next direction I want to go as far as like creating landscapes and sounds and tapping into like what were they tapping into? And imagine what that was like, what that would be like as score. And that might just be a passion project or that might turn into something that lives in one of our future projects. But that's kind of where I'm at. I'm a little bit all over the place and um, I do have rock and roll roots, but I also I there's just an expansion of music lately. It's been in the last couple of years that I've just been exploring for score purposes more.
Yeah. Please tell us about the Tom Petty connection and how that has come to be and how that's taken shape in your work.
Well, so the first show that we got 13 years ago was with Bill Lawrence, and he's a huge Tom Petty fan. And every episode of the show, it was Cougar Town, with Courtney Cox. Every episode, very different than say Bad Monkey. Um,
Hmm.
every episode was named after a Tom Petty song, and there were over 100 episodes, and each one was a new title, which gives you an idea of the what a vast catalog Tom had or has in the Heartbreakers. But so fast forward to, and we've worked on many projects with Bill, but now to Bad Monkey. The concept was takes place down in Florida. Um, Already a huge Tom Petty fan. Hey, what if we got, this is Bill and Tom and Tony, the music supervisor's like point of view. Like, what if we got um, all these great bands to cover Tom Petty as the soundtrack throughout this series? And they were able to do it. They pulled it off, and knowing that they were in the process of doing it, and the project this was a longer project than most. We had some time. Jamie and I decided we each would do our covers of Tom Petty, but because we've been working with picture, we were able to create more cinematic and sonic landscapes. Weave that within the existing song and kind of flip the songs into our world. Especially Jamie's is just like, especially the scene that it takes place in is just, it's just epic. But um,
Your
it's
scene
a
too is crazy.
it's a big moment for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's where that came from, and then along the way, um, Jamie was able to, you had been speaking with Sharon Van Etten, and you were able to get her on there, and the Meridian Brothers,
Yeah.
and a couple other people that Jamie kind of introduced to the team, and everyone had to do these covers. It wasn't like just pulling from existing. So it was really cool to hear people's takes on things. War on drugs, I just really, really cool. And we were like they were like, send us under the table kind of vibe, like check out this cover. We think it's gonna, because you still had to make sure it worked in the scene, which is tricky because you're dealing with big artists and you just want to say yes because it's what a great opportunity. And they all just came out great. It was really a cool experience, and be able to kind of being able to not be necessarily directly involved, but sort of on a parallel universe, watching it all happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love how you're talking about like music kind of living in its own place, but also being part of the project and living in a project. Really interesting to think about, and the way music comes along and tells its own story and helps to tell the story as well.
Yes.
Yeah. What are some of the threads that you're pulling on for the current project for Motorheads?
Well, Motorheads is a coming of age story. I'm gonna actually let you take it because
Okay.
actually WAZ led this project. Um,
It came out, actually came out on the 20th, so it came out on 2 days ago.
Hmm.
And we finished it in December. Um, yeah, like Jamie said, it's a coming of age. It's first love, first car, first heartbreak, and there's a lot of mystery. And the idea, the creator and showrunner Johnny Norris, who's so passionate about this project, he'd been working on it for a number of years, and um, we our first call with them was just, we had read all 10 scripts actually they had sent us. And so we read them all, and we were ready to go. We were just like, this is it. And my dad actually had a 1969 Stingray Corvette when I was growing up, that he had completely restored. And that was, it didn't make it into, they had to change it because I think they had a hard time getting that car, but it was in the script. And I was like, guys, I know this car. I know this car. But beyond that, I think the inspiration for this, our side of things and the score was to, our conversations were like, aside from score that serves the picture a little bit more, where you're having to, let everybody know what's happening, or you're kind of supporting what's already happening. I wanted the atmospheres to sound almost like how an engine feels, or that feeling when you're in an old car and you can just feel the energy and the power. And um, especially in the first episode, the pilot, we were able to really, when you get to when the car is a character, with without a doubt a character, and when it pulls up, there is a piece of music playing that was inspired from just that, just like brooding energy, and that was sort of the inspiration, and yeah, and then we went from there.
It's nice. Um, I was gonna ask you something else. There was another piece there. Oh, you mentioned that you had all the scripts at once. I don't imagine that happens all the time with every project. I imagine you're
No,
going more script to script. So how did that change your process?
Well, I think like there's a lot of projects that are coming out now that had delays because of, coming out of the tail end of the pandemic and then the strike, the writer's strike. So I think that, you know, uh, just the delay, it's unusual to get all 10 scripts, but we happen to because of the circumstance. And so it's amazing to be able to really see the full arc of these characters that Johnny has created and the relationships because they're so rich and those relationships really started to inspire themes. And then, you can like start to get, you know, really crafty with themes and with the palette and things reappearing. You know, something is coming and you can have a tiny little hint of it, and then you recognize it at the end because, we feel the like we know where this is going and we're not going to give it away. But,
Mhm.
we might use the same pad that we're going to use in the final scene, a little hint of it here when there's a flashback that's like headed towards that direction. So it's so fun when you have the opportunity to work that way.
yeah,
Speaking to motif, one of my favorite pieces to catch on, especially when you're rereading or reviewing something, to catch some of those elements, and also appreciating the Murakami reference you made a little while ago as well.
Yeah. What's your
Yeah.
favorite?
Oh, I think it's called Stand Still Hummingbird. Hummingbird is in the title.
Okay.
haven't read that
I
one.
haven't
Yeah.
read that. Yay. Okay, we'll add it to our
Yeah.
list.
I just finished Killing Commendatory.
Nice. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
Uh,
fantastic.
such an interesting view of reality, and I know that music also shapes the view of reality or views of reality. So it's interesting to have two different perspectives in your collaborative process, the way that you've described and talked about. Uh, Almost getting to kind of pitch it to one another as you work through.
Yeah,
For sure.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of layers. Absolutely. If I am a listener out there and I want to find out more about your work and more about what is coming up, where might I go to do that?
There's a couple of places. You can find us on social media and Instagram. WAZ is at WAZ Music, so WAZ Music. And I'm at Jamie Miss Jackson, so Jamie MS Jackson. And then we also have a website, waz-jackson.com.
Nice, nice. Did we miss anything in the talk through that you want to make sure to share about the process, about Motorheads? I'll mention here again that it's just been released a few days ago, so
Mhm.
Motorheads is out for viewers to check out.
Yeah, we've been talking about the theme of Bad Monkey a lot. So
Hmm.
maybe we could tell you how that came about.
Yeah, would love to hear that.
Yeah, so I think we mentioned before that the process was a bit delayed. It took about 2.5 years for us to finish Bad Monkey, and part of it was, coming out of the pandemic and the protocol, and then they were shooting in Florida, so there was a lot of lightning delays and wildlife and things. And then the writer's strike happened. So, we were here in LA working and trying to discover the tone of the show. So that when Bill Lawrence, the showrunner, and Matt Tarsis, the producer, returned from Florida, we would have a lot of material that we could throw up against picture and their edits. And so I had a really nasty cold one day, and I had taken some cold medicine, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go downstairs and I'm going to write some music. And in the early cuts, there was this just graphic that held the place for the main title where a theme would go. And there was
Mhm.
just this monkey that was just like a picture of a monkey that was like just taunting photograph of this monkey. And it was haunting me like, oh my gosh, like we have to find the tone, we have to get the score done. And then finally I was like, I've had it. I'm just gonna write the theme song right now. I'm done. And so I grabbed Waz's guitar. I don't play guitar. And I grabbed one of those
A
really
12 string, no less.
and grabbed that. And then I grabbed this like thick Sharpie highlighter, which I'll show you.
Mhm.
I literally grabbed this and I grabbed the guitar and I started doodling. And then I started like panting and grunting like a monkey. And Waz walks in and is like, that's the theme. And I was like, that's the theme. And then we started, bringing in some of the sounds and elements that we had been developing into this piece of music. And we texted over to Bill Lawrence and it became the theme song. And it was just one of those moments in our process where it just kind of broke us free from, any expectations, and it just like released us into our process. We surrendered to the process and we could have fun and go and take risk. And so that was just a really amazing moment. And then, we had elements of like a grounding bass that's like influenced a bit by Andros, the Afrobeat feeling. And then we had some swampy absurd guitar sounds and some grunting and panting, and then some female vocals which I sang that were pulling in the mystique of the Dragon Queen. And then we wanted to raise the stakes on the theme, so we hired an orchestra to play on it, and we hired an all-female orchestra and a female conductor. And it was a magical process and very memorable. And we're really excited
Yeah.
about that piece.
Very cool, and definitely a unique process. The ingredients for a theme: cold, guitar, and a highlighter.
That's
That's right.
You
That's right.
need like Sudafed, a guitar, and a highlighter. And like you have to like, grunt and pant and just be free and silly and have fun and wait for the happy accidents.
Yeah, yeah. Creative expression in many forms, many
That's
forms.
right.
All right. Well, I will put that together in the context of the interview. Anything else that I've missed that you'd like to mention about Motorheads or any project that's on the way, anything like that before we close out?
The next project it's Dorothy, which is going to be premiering at Tribeca in New York.
Tribeca Film Festival.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think once that it will definitely sell, and once that gets distributed, everyone can watch it. And so you want to just quickly tell about what the
Yeah, it's Dorothy is a documentary. It's made by filmmaker Jeffrey McHale, who's just wonderful. It's basically a thesis on the character Dorothy from The Wiz, The Wizard of Oz, and The Return of Oz, and how Dorothy's story really inspires women and the LGBTQ plus community, and Black and Brown artists. And it's just this gorgeous work where he takes archival footage from The Wizard of Oz, from The Wiz, from some of these crazy, amazing performances by Diana Ross, Rufus Wainwright, Margaret Cho, and he intertwines them into these humans' lives and how Dorothy is inside of all of us. And it's just a really gorgeous film. So keep your eye
It's
out
beautiful.
for it.
Definitely will. Definitely will. I love the range of the projects that you've worked on and love hearing about the process. Certainly glad to have you back anytime as you're
Oh,
exploring new ground.
thank you so
Thank you so
much. We
much.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's nice to meet you.